Hey everyone, so for this video we're going to look at how we can decide whether or not a relation is a function. So before we get started, remember a function means that for every x value it only corresponds to one y value. So for every input you only have one output. And so one of the easiest things to do when you're trying to determine if a relation is a function is to just look at your domain values. So if you look at the first question here, it says that there's a domain and the range, all right? And as you can see, they're just letters. But if I use what we call mapping notation, so I'm just going to kind of draw two little circles. This is mapping notation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of draw a picture or a map of what this looks like. So in my domain, and then in my range, right, there are different letters here. So in my domain I have J, B, and D. So notice those are my three different domain values. Now I know some of them repeat, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then for range I have W, F, M, G, and D. W, F, M, G, and D. So let's make this a little bigger. Alright. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map out each of these. So if I look at this first row here, it says that the domain J goes to range W. So I'm going to draw an arrow from J to W. And if I look at the second row, I'm going to do the same thing, B to F, and then D to M. And then if you notice, it now says B to G, so I already have a B, and I'm going to draw an arrow from B to G, and then from D to D. Now you're probably looking at this thinking it's a little confusing, but what we want to make sure is that everything in my domain only goes to one other thing in the range. So if I look at this J value here, J only goes to W. There's only one arrow that comes out of J to W. However, if I look at B here, we have a problem because B has two arrows coming from it. So B goes to F and it goes to G. So because B, a value in our domain, goes to more than one value in the range, we can say that this is not a function. Now that's not the only one, right? As you probably can tell, D also goes to two different things, so that would be another reason why it's not a function. Okay, so let's look at number 2. So again, we're given points, and we wanted to, if you don't have to, you can draw yourself a map or not. But again, what we're going to look at is we're going to check and see, does every x value only go to one y value? And so kind of a quick way to check so that we don't have to draw the map every single time is we look for and see if there are repeated x values. Okay, so remember x is your domain. So if I look at my points here, my x values are 1, right? -4, 2, 0, and 5. So I can clearly see that there are no x values that repeat. So, and I can also see that every x value only goes to one thing anyway. So because every x value only has one y value or one output, we can say that this is a function. And there you go.